Okay, today I'm tying the depth charge. It's not my pattern. I saw it in Fly Tire magazine. It works great here in the state of Missouri and our wild trout streams and Montauk. I've never been successful with it at Bennett Springs. The one bead is 7/64 black. The first bead is 3/32 black, and the thread is tan in color, size 8 uni thread. I've installed both beads, the little bead first and the little hole forward, big bead second, big hole forward. I'm going to go ahead and install my thread, and I'm using the bead and I'm tying it right behind the little bead. I slid the big bead down the shank and out of my way. I'm going to tie back, and now I've tied it in, and I'm creating somewhat of a taper right here behind the little bead. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead now and take my biots like thus, and I'm going to turn them shiny side to get back to back to create a nice taper. Now the biots that I'm using are ginger color goose biots, and as you can see, I'm going to lay them right there behind the bead using the shank. I'm going to cant them to me just a little, and I'm going to gently wrap them very, very gingerly, no pun intended. And I'm going to go ahead and use my thumb to splay them out. Now I'm adjusting the length, as you can see just now. As I come around, I'm wrapping forward to the bead, just like that. And what I'm going to do now is wrap back. Now they're becoming nice and cinched in. As I'm wrapping, I'm tightening up the thread. And now I've got it nice and tight. I'm going to go ahead and cut everything off. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. Don't need a lot, just a little. And now from here, I'm going to put a little bit of head cement on there before I slide the other bead up. And the reason that the other bead has the big hole towards the eye, and that is because now it's going to be able to slide up right in there like that and lock everything in. So you can now see the back of those biots, and that's to help me lock this thread in with that bead. And now I'm going to go ahead and wrap and start my thread again, cut my tag. I'm going to go ahead and take my wire, and this is copper, so you kind of want to warm it up with your fingers to soften it up, anneal it, or whatever you want to call it, because that's really what it is annealing. When they actually pull the wire, they work harden it, and it has a tendency to break. I'm going to wrap this wire down the hook shank on the back side of the shank and down, so that when I counter wrap it, it starts on the bottom of my hook. I wrap back to the barb, and now I'm going to go ahead and get my Hairtron ginger dubbing, which, like I said, works so good here in Missouri. And I'm going to create just a wee bit of a ball of dubbing. And I'm going to make it right there at the bottom of that barb. Just a little guy. I don't need a whole lot. And then from here, I'm going to wrap up to the hook point and let my thread hang. And I'm going to go ahead now and get me 2 more ginger goose biots. Notice how I wrap it around my finger, if you can see this. I wrap it, slide my scissors down, hold them with my scissors, pinch, cut. That way I don't have to chase them all over the place. And now I go ahead and turn them, like I said, shiny side to shiny side, just like that. And I'm going to transfer them over, and the points are back. So now I want it from the end of my ball right there towards the bead to the back of the bead in length. So I'm going to go ahead and pinch right behind the bead, the tag end splay out, use the shank, and start to tie them in where that thread's hanging down. And by tying it in like that, I'm going to be able to wrap back on each side of that hook shank, just like that. And I want to make them a little longer, so I just kind of pull. And we're good. So I'm going to kind of do this, and I'm going to cinch down. And you can see as I tighten my thread, they're having a tendency to splay out like that. And I'm going to go ahead and continue wrapping backwards, making sure that they stay on each side of the hook shank, just like that. And now when I get to the back, I'm going to have them where I like them, and I need to almost adjust a little more back. Watch that hook point when you're doing this. Just like that. There we go. So if you can see this, there you go. So now I'm going to take this thread and I'm going to wrap forward, pinching my butts all the way, sections of them go by. It's all the way to the back of the big bead. And now I'm going to fold that. Now I'm going to cut them half the length of the shank. And I'm going to fold these back. And that's how I'm going to create the taper on this body. Just like that. So now I've created a nice taper right up to the beads. So I'm going to go ahead now and get my hair dubbing. And I'm going to go ahead and dub. And again, try not to overdub this thing. Only put enough dubbing on here that you know you're going to use, or just a little less, because it's better to just go ahead and put a little more on than try and pull it off, because everybody has a tendency to use what dubbing they've installed on the thread, and you'll wind up without willingly doing it. Notice how the overdubbing your hook, but notice how the thread has no dubbing on it as I work my way back. Now it touches, and I'm watching them bias, making sure they don't move, so that means I went back too far. And now I'm going to go ahead and put a little more dubbing on, but not a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and keep dubbing forward, creating a nice taper, and I'm going to keep installing dubbing as I go, because I'd rather have the option of controlling how much dubbing I put on this fly, or any fly, versus having the dubbing tell me. So now I'm just wrapping up to, and you can see the taper, how it started. It's really nice. So now I'm going to counter wrap my wire, okay? So it's going to come over the top. Now I want to make sure my biots don't move. If they do, then my wire is too far back and I want to restart that ribbing, but they did not. So there's 1, 2, keeping my segmentation even, 3, 4, and then I'm going to have my 5th segmentation. Now I'm up to where my collar is going to be, and I'm going to come zag right up behind that bead. I'm going to put a couple of wraps there, and that's so when I worry this wire off, I don't close up my segmentations. I'm going to go ahead, since it's a counter wrap, I'm pulling from the back side of the hook to me and just worry it off, and I didn't move any of my segmentation. Now we have one final feather to put on, and that's going to be a partridge, and we're going to do it just like you would do a regular soft tackle. And I'm going to go ahead and pick out a nice one, and I'm going to peel it off. And what I'm going to do is I want my legs to kind of hang backwards, so I'm going to strip off one side, and I'm going to go ahead and tie this in, shiny side up, and I'm going to go ahead and tie it in just like that. And now I'm going to take this, and I don't like to over wrap these. It's like I said, kind of like a soft tackle wet fly. So as you can see, as I wrap it around, my stem is not round, of course, so I'm using my stem to guide those barbules. Roll that vise, get that vise out of your way, and now wrap through it, around that bead. There we go. Just like that. Get that stem on this side, wrap behind that stem one time, and now I can cut it. And now I'm going to kind of fold everything back just a little, except for those biots in front. Watch out for them. And now I'm going to go ahead and wrap a nice little collar right here, tying it all down. And now I'm going to go ahead and whip finish. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to cinch it right up. Everything's there. And we can go ahead and cut. So now we've got it. Let me look at my legs, and I'm going to make sure they're all the way around. Yep. Yep. Very nice. The legs are coming out just about the middle of my tails. This fly came out very good in proportion. Now I'm going to put just a wee bit of head cement right there because I don't want it to get all up in those soft hackles. And now there we have it, a nice depth charge in a ginger color with black thorax, black head, and that's going to work awesome for you in your plunge pools and any of the other places. I've actually had really good success at Montauk during the high water season when nothing really, dry flies, none of that would ever work. And I drop this out without an indicator and let it drift down, sink to the bottom, and as it starts to come up, bang, they hit it. And especially along the banks on high water. In the plunge pools, I throw it above, let it tumble through the rocks. If it doesn't pick a fish up there, I just kind of let it tight line all the way through. The current will swing it around, and you'll be surprised how many trout will pick it up in really fast-moving water. One of the things that was brought to my attention last night when we tied this fly, Al Borisov brought it to my attention that this fly looks the same, rotating all the way around. It never occurred to me. I really like that on a nymph pattern or whatever, wet fly, that as the fly is rotating in the current, and again, I fish it in fast current, it looks the same all the way around. So there you have it, the depth charge tied to be fished here in Missouri in the #1 color, the ginger color.